Hello, this is Sarah V, and today I'm going to be making a shirt that I had on my fall sewing plans video from last year that I never got around to making. That pattern is Simplicity 9818, and I think I'm going to make the one with the stripes because the fabric I am using is stripes, and the illustration has quite influenced me in that way. The fabric is this orange striped fabric that I got at Fabricmart back in 2019 on my first in-person trip to Fabricmart. Very exciting. Also, some minor updates. I found a pattern to make a little vest that goes with that half circle skirt I made a while back. Yeah. I also finished making this dress that I cut out in June and never finished because I also cut out a yellow one with the same pattern. And that's Simplicity 9739. And the yellow one I decided to put embroidery all along the bottom of the hem, and it's taken quite a bit longer than I thought it would. So whenever I finally get that embroidery done, the video for these will be up. Hopefully not too far into the fall, because it is like the beginning of September. So anyway, I think I need to go turn on my iron because this fabric has many a wrinkle before I can actually cut stuff out, and I actually cut this pattern out last year. I was absolutely ready to make it, I just ran out of time. So, yeah. I'm starting things off by laying everything out, and I thought this would take all 2 yards of the fabric because I think on the envelope it said it would take 2 yards of fabric, but it didn't. I had a smidge left, and whenever I recut the cuffs later on, I was able to cut it out of scrap, so that was good. I was a little worried how this would turn out just because it has raglan sleeves, and I tend to not like raglan sleeves on me because they make my shoulders look broader, I think. But I think because of the puffing from the gathers at the bottom of the sleeve, it kind of works with the sleeve to make my shoulders appear less shouldery and more like a sleeve, perhaps. It's more like the sleeve is one with my shoulder, and my shoulder is the sleeve, versus the sleeve making my shoulder look bigger, kind of. Because I think certain things make my shoulders look broad, if it says to put shoulder pads in, I usually don't, because I feel like I probably don't need them. But that is just my own personal opinion regarding my shoulders and sleeves. I also ended up not making the one with the little bow in the front because I was also worried with the high neckline that it would make my shoulders look broader too. So I ended up going with the one with the regular collar. But I did cut out that piece just in case I wanted to sew it up and be able to like tie it under the collar as a bow. So there's that option too. I still haven't gotten around to sewing that up. It just wasn't priority at the moment, but perhaps I will sew it up later and then I can try it together. But if I also finish that tie piece, I also have to put the little button and loop thing to close the top up. So there's that. Now I am just sewing in all the darts. There is 2 bust darts, and then they're like waist tucks. 4 in the front, 4 in the back. And I probably should have lengthened the waist so they sit a little lower at the proper place. But all my skirts are pretty high-waisted, so I think it should be fine. Now over to the sleeves. I am sewing that seam dart type thing where the shoulder seam would be if there was a shoulder seam. And that went pretty okay. I serged those edges later, and I think I just pressed it open. And now I am putting in the continuous lap. Over at the ironing board, I am now pressing all those darts and tucks I put in. And some of these wrinkles did not come out. I did iron the fabric before, but I think it overall just needs to be washed and dried again to get some of those wrinkles to fall out. Back to the sleeves, I am putting in those pleats along the side. And the top half of the continuous lap actually becomes one of the pleats closer to the front, which I thought that was kind of cool. I was going to put the collar in, but then I realized I have to sew the sleeves in first because there was no shoulder seams. And these sleeves were super easy to put in. I didn't have to do any easing at all. They went in super well. But I think that might just be part of the nature of these types of sleeves. Back at the ironing board, I am pressing those shoulder seams, and I serged them and trimmed away some of that seam allowance because I've never actually altered an arm's eye before whenever I need to let things out or anything, so I figured that's pretty safe to do. And now I am working on the collar. I feel like I might have had footage of me trimming the seams, but I might not have. I might just be thinking of my last video. But anyway, I trimmed the seams and clipped it along the curve so that when I turn it out I can get a nice press line. Now I am back at the machine putting in the collar, and I have everything pinned together with the collar sandwiched in between, and in the very middle of the collar I have clipped into it so that I can sew the middle in, and then when I'm done I can just flip that seam allowance up inside and sew it down so it's nice and clean on the inside. And while I was sewing that inside down, I did run out of thread right about there, and that was pretty disappointing. And then I had to redo it because it wasn't sewn. And once again, to get my label in, I had to fold it up so that it would have a place to sit, and I just did it at the very bottom of the collar so it would sit on the inside when it's being worn. Now I am able to do my underarm seams, And I did reinforce it under the armpit because that is what I prefer doing. It makes me feel better. And I did end up taking out some of the, like letting it out a bit, because I probably should have graded up to a larger size for my waist because my bust is in a smaller size, but I thought I could get away with it. And it just ended up with a more fitted shirt around my waist. And after I did those gathering stitches, I put it into the cuff, and after I put it into the cuff, I folded it in to see if it would fit, and it was a little tight. Like it was too tight, actually. So I had to figure out how much I needed to add, and then cut out new cuffs. So I've run into a small problem, and it's that this is too small around my arm because my arms are a bit plump, and they are probably in a different size than my bust is. So yeah, so I cut out new bands for it, so I'm going to have to unpick this. I'm glad I didn't sew it the whole way on. I just have to unpick that, which will be a bit of a pain because I cut those gathering threads. They're still there, but yeah. But this way, it'll give me enough ease around my arms that my arms don't feel like they're being restricted, but there'll be enough room for my arms. So yeah. But other than that, it's going together pretty good. And I probably should have graded up for the waist, but I did not, so it's a tighter fit around the bottom. I am now sewing the front facing down and the front at the very bottom so I can turn it out, and it will make the hem less bulky at the front of the shirt. And then I am hemming it, which I probably should have pinned it, but it's not the worst hem in the world, it's not the best hem in the world. I just kind of rolled it as I went along. So it's not perfect, but I also wear it tucked in all the time. And I wear most of my shirts tucked in, so it's not really an issue. So take that as you will, I suppose. Over to my buttonhole attachment, I am putting in my buttonholes, and I think on the last buttonhole I actually broke my needle, which was very disappointing, and I just replaced the needle and kept going and hoped for the best. It made me a little sad. I think it probably hit the metal plate or something, I don't know. I also didn't really need to worry about getting oil on it this time because these are horizontal buttonholes, not vertical ones. So there was that. That was pretty good. It's whenever you end up with like the vertical buttonholes all in a row and you have the garment you're working on underneath the back of the buttonholer is where it gets a little dicey with whether you're going to get oil on it or not. I also did not use those buttons I bought and went through my button stash again and found 5 of these buttons in a little bag, and I was like, this is pretty perfect, I'll take it. Overall, I think this turned out pretty good. I did have to make the cuffs longer, and even though this is for a 36-inch bust, I'm getting some gaping in the front here. Just very slight, and the darts are kind of high. So I don't know. Technically, I am in the correct size for my bust, but not really the waist. But like, they're not, maybe it needs a bust adjustment. But it also could use a little more length because this is quite a high-waisted skirt. So you don't really see where the tucks are. But if I was in a regular skirt, the tucks would go way up above the skirt waistband. So it would be a little on the short side. Other than that, I am happy with it. And it will be suitable enough. It's not perfect, but it's wearable at the very least. And yeah. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you'd like to see more fall sewing content, please subscribe. If you would like to see what I'm up to day to day, feel free to follow me on Instagram at Sarah V Sews Vintage. Thank you again for watching and see you next time.